Alright, so we did our company on Apple, and there's Rachel and Chris and Blake and I, and we decided to choose Apple for our presentation. So in starting, we were asked to do an abstract and come up with a hypothesis and use our findings to really describe on everything that we were supposed to do. And so before doing our findings, we understood that Apple, it would be hard to know what was wrong with Apple, being that it's such a popular company and they do so many things right. But just like all companies, they have strengths and weaknesses. So initially, we thought that Apple would have a temporary competitive advantage, and we found that to be true through our findings. So through this presentation, we are going to do a TOWS analysis and a VRIO analysis and kind of show you exactly what we found and be able to give you a recommendation at the very end.
So to start, this is our TOWS analysis, and I'm going to talk about two of the possible paths for Apple to take, and then Rachel will discuss another one. I'm going to focus specifically on the SO, a strength to take advantage of an opportunity, and another strength to neutralize a threat. And so one of the recommendations, or one of the strengths to utilize an opportunity, is that of entering into new product lines, creating new products through our customer loyalty. Apple's got devout followers, almost a cult following, and we think that we could use that to enter into a new product, such as a gaming console. Microsoft has their Xbox, Sony has the PlayStation, Nintendo has the Wii or the Nintendo Switch, and Apple could use that customer loyalty to create and enter into that product line. So the second TOW analysis that we're going to talk about is the strength to neutralize a threat. Apple has a strength of integration across their products. I can give you a personal example. My wife is an Apple user. She has her Mac, she has her iPad, and she has her iPhone. And she loves it because she can get a text on her phone while she's working on her Mac, and she can see it. And she loves the fact that she can access that text through any of her devices. And likewise, she can take a picture with her iPhone, upload it to the iCloud with literally just the click of a mouse, and then she can access that media through any of her devices. And she loves that, and that is one of the reasons that Apple's been so successful with their products. They've created this microcosm where Apple consumers can enjoy their products and enjoy really integration better than anyone else can. And they can neutralize that threat of rivalry, or the threat that other companies like Samsung with their phones, or Kindle, or HP taking away their market share. And that's because an Apple user like my wife, even if she wanted to use a Samsung phone, she never would. And that's honestly because she didn't want to lose that integration with her Mac, with her iPad. And so it creates a difficulty for users to switch to new products. And I'll switch to Rachel now, and she's going to talk about another TOWS analysis.
Apple has many opportunities to expand into new markets. They also have a few weaknesses that they need to overcome. So they can use the opportunity of third-party compatibility to expand into new personal and business markets. I work for a fund accounting firm, and we use software every day that is not compatible with Apple Macs, such as Excel and Penny and QuickBooks. They sometimes are available for Macs, but they're not ever at the level that the PC would provide. They don't have the ability to use these softwares at the same level as PCs, and I know that my work and many other works would definitely consider changing over to Macs over PCs if they could use these third-party softwares at the same level that a PC uses. Because there are many companies that do use Macs, but they use them for their marketing or graphic design departments because they have the appropriate and good enough software for it. I chose to get a Mac laptop before I chose my major, and once I chose accounting as my major, I definitely regretted getting a Mac laptop. There have been many assignments where I've had to go find a Windows-based computer because my Mac didn't support the software I needed to use to do my assignments. So as a personal computer, it's got a lot of pros and cons, but the cons being that there are not those third-party compatibilities. And while Apple does have their own version of Excel and Word, and they could expand and increase those, they will never be at the same level that Microsoft has gotten to with Excel and their Word. And so if Apple could integrate these third-party products while keeping their Apple essence, they could see huge potential growth in the business and personal markets. And now Blake is going to explain why we chose our recommendations in a VRIO analysis.
All right, so first off, the reason why we chose compatibility as our topic of discussion in the VRIO analysis is because we have realized that compatibility is a huge issue for Apple. They have really definitely drawn the line in what is Mac and what is Windows-based, and we're all very familiar with that. But it's also, you know, as that compatibility generates it makes them very, it creates their reputation as Mac of who they are. It also creates an opportunity for improvement, but also adds value to the company. So we chose compatibility. Now, when we look at the VRIO analysis, the value of compatibility is when you look at Apple internally, there's a lot of value in their compatibility across their different devices and products. You know, I, for example, own an Apple TV, an Apple Watch, an iPad, an iPhone, and like Rachel discussed, it's very seamless when you receive a text, or how Chris explained as well. When you receive a text, you receive it across all your different devices. It's very easy to move. Items and pictures and photos and documents across your different devices, and it makes your life a whole lot easier as an Apple user. But externally, there's a little bit less value because Apple really hasn't got into the business field. They really lack when it comes to this area of business, and Rachel really discussed that. You know, in my specific job as an accountant, we use SAP Business One. SAP Business One is probably the second largest ERP software in the business industry today, and none of us use Mac computers because of the fact that it simply can't handle SAP. It can't run fluidly, it's not efficient, and it really lags when you try to use it on a Mac computer. So, you know, we all use Windows-based computers at our work when we use SAP. So it's definitely a niche, and it's a market that Apple really needs to improve on if they want to expand their business. Now, when we look at rarity, Apple, or their compatibility, is rare to an extent that they work with their products across the board. So, you know, that's fair. It's relatively rare because of the extent that Apple has done it. Now, there are certain things that Windows has done. You know, their sync application where they can, you know, sync the Surface with a Windows-based computer. They do certain things like this, but not to the extent of Apple. And then also, you know, there's different, like a companion app that Windows-based computers offer as well to be able to link to a Windows device or an Android device. Now, imitability, or not costly to imitate, it's not really costly to imitate because other companies are offering this compatibility. They're offering their iCloud services, this idea of being able to exchange documents and information, you know, seamlessly between devices. And you know, they also offer you know, music services that you can play on your cell phone, that you can play on your computer. Windows is doing that, and so it's nothing new that isn't already being done for Apple with their Apple Music and their iTunes. Now, as far as the organization goes with Apple, they have a very strong management. Their management definitely focuses on improvements in the market, and Apple is definitely a trendsetter. And so when there's opportunities for Apple to improve, they're very much on that, and they structure their company to be able to do that. You know, in my research, I found that Apple has a senior executive that's just over their design department and over their software department. And so they have the business structure to look for these opportunities and to facilitate improvements inside the company. Now, with this VRIO analysis, our suggestion for Apple with compatibility is Apple needs to work with these historically known Windows-based companies or Windows-based softwares to be able to expand into the business field. You know, that includes Microsoft Suite, Excel, PowerPoint, offer those things because the business field is using those. They don't use Apple's, you know, they don't use their numbers, they don't use their Keynote, they don't use that software. They use Excel, and those are things that are exchanged inside the business field. So it'd be a great advantage for Apple to be able to work with these companies in creating a relationship, in establishing, you know, softwares that are used inside the business field. Now, you know, Apple does also offer in there with their MacBook to be able to download Windows onto the computer, and that can be seen as a solution here, but it's very technical, and essentially unless you are, you know, an expert at computers and softwares, it's very difficult for the average Joe to be able to go in and download Windows onto a Mac computer. Another avenue to create a solution for this is you can also download a companion app that you can actually create. Essentially, it's an app that you can flip over into a Windows computer. But the issue with that being that it actually it takes a lot of your memory and your processing of your computer. So as those are opportunities, or as those are features and abilities that Apple offers, they don't work seamlessly, and so the best option at this point would definitely be for Apple to work with these companies that, or work with these softwares and create these softwares and work with, you know, Microsoft on these softwares that are used across the business field.
All right, so we were asked to choose 2 or 3 different VRIO analysis and dive into our research. And so for the second one that we chose, outside of compatibility, we decided that compatibility was a temporary competitive advantage. And so we decided to look at a sustained competitive advantage that Apple has. And lots of people would argue that a majority of Apple and its image and the company itself would be considered a sustained competitive advantage just because of, like I said, popularity. I mean, what is Apple doing wrong, right? And so there are definitely some items and some research that we did find that fell under the sustained competitive advantage, and this was one of them. So I think that most people would agree that loyalty and reputation of Apple's name and brand is definitely a sustained competitive advantage. So I'm going to walk through the VRIO of this one. So the value, we decided that it's a high value, and it's high in all of these on the VRIO, giving it the sustained competitive advantage. But the high value just because of the high quality. I know that when I purchased my first iPhone, that the best part about it was, although it was expensive and more expensive than other phones, that I knew that it would last and that the value was there, and that is a good product that I didn't really have to worry about. And so that value doesn't just come by starting a company, but it's years and years of fixing things and making them more, making them easier for people to use and better for people to figure out when it comes to the perception as years go on in value. More and more phones have the value that Apple is looking for. So that value we definitely feel is high. Now when it comes to rarity, no one else really has the simple factor in their phone. I mean, there's a high quality, but the thing that sticks out most with Apple products, even with their Macs and their phones, iPads, all of these products that they offer, is just it's simple. And I've seen plenty of kids who use it, who can figure it out better than I can. And I think that says a lot about the company when they're not trying to confuse their customers and their users and how a phone should work. And they're doing a really good job of being able to make that simple, and that's something that people know Apple for, and that's rare in Apple. And obviously, they're a trendsetter in being reliable. They're always coming out with new ideas and new looks for phones. I remember when the first Apple iPhone came out, it had the glass pane. I know there's Palm Pilots that had the whole keyboard on them, and that was something that really stuck out about Blackberries and Palm Pilots, but the Apple iPhone was the first one that had a touchscreen that had glass that was just new, and they've succeeded in doing that over the past couple of years in keeping their trends up and new and exciting. So with Rarity, definitely have a high quality, minimalist design, trendsetter, and it's reliable. So we're going to move on to inimitability. Right. So we decided that that is also high because rarity and imitability just go hand in hand together, and they you can't really, in a sustained competitive advantage, have high rarity and not high imitability. And so we definitely think it's the Apple's brand's really costly to imitate, just because the perception in the market. I wouldn't be able to start a company today and have people rely, millions and millions of people rely on what I have, just because I think my product's awesome. That's something that's built over the years and has been sustained, and people rely on them. So the last thing would be the organization. We definitely have a high priority in that, and we think that the organization's high and caps off the VRIO analysis, just because every 6 months, as it's listed here, they have to come out, and they have decided they want to come out with a new phone, or announcement of a new phone, or a new iPad, or something new that really keeps people on the edge, that keeps people turning their phones in and switching for a new product, which helps them bring in the revenue that they need. And their organization has really nailed that model. When other companies take a while to get a new phone, or take a while to get a new computer or something, Apple makes it a priority to have new innovations and something new on their products come out every 6 months or a year. So our suggestion at the end of this VRIO analysis is having a new product line. We're not really sure, or we're not really confident that that would be the suggestion that we would go with, the recommendation that we would choose, based on how people would handle trying to use an Apple console or Apple video games, and if it would dilute the brand or not. And we're not very confident that that is something that they could focus on and really bring their company up to the next level, although it is a market that they aren't in currently. And so with our 2 VRIO analysis, we did come up with a couple recommendations that Rachel will provide.
So while Apple does have a great customer loyalty base, expanding their product line could be very risky. Since they've never been in the game console market, if they entered into that, they already have so many products out there that have a loyal customer base, like PlayStation and Xbox. It would be hard to take away from that market share, and it's very risky, and it would probably dilute the Apple brand by expanding into a completely different market. So we have decided to go with third-party compatibility as our recommendation. We believe it would increase their market share in the business and personal market, and it would lead to a competitive and sustained advantage.